All right, so we're back. What's going on, Josh? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. What's been going on since last time I saw you?
Well, let's see. In the first time, 15 years of living in this house, I decided to rearrange my living room.
Why? What made you rearrange your living
I
room?
think after my little doggy Tater passed away,
Yeah.
I left her beds and her toys on the
Oh
ground, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so I hadn't had the heart to throw all that stuff out yet. But I think it's time. And so, in doing that, I also kind of just wanted to change everything up. Kind
Right
of,
on.
a new chapter.
Right on.
So,
That's cool. Until you get another dog.
nah, not anytime soon. Wait, put that on the back burner.
Well,
But yeah, it's the arrangement. It's all everything's at an angle. So the
oh,
TV's in the corner, the couch is, at an
it'll be
angle.
different.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
quite different.
it'll be different because I've only seen it the one way all these years.
Right. The
So,
whole time that
yeah.
you've been coming over here,
Right on. So all week, that's all you've done is rearrange your couch and
pretty
your TV.
much.
Fair enough.
Now I have paddle boards in the kitchen. So
Yeah, well, I haven't really done a whole lot too. Well, I should say that I did a whole lot. Last weekend was my 30th high school reunion, which sounds just nuts that I can say 3 decades ago I graduated from high school.
ooh, you getting
So
old.
yeah, getting there, I'm there. And yeah, so we had fun. We went to the football game there in Temple on Friday night with a bunch of us, and I got called up into the press box to talk to Coach McQueen,
Nice.
which was really cool. And some of the football players and stuff and whatnot. And then on Saturday we kind of just did this family deal out at the Miller Park, and it was pretty low key. And then a uh, a dinner or whatnot out at that Vincent Homestead in the Grove area. Lots of fun. It was good seeing a lot of those people. Not as many people showed up as I would have hoped, seeing that there was about 460 something of us that graduated and only about 45, 50 showed up
Wow.
for that. But
That's
we're getting older,
that's
and I
still a
think
good turnout.
yeah, it is. But I think everybody just sees each other on social media now, so it's like they're like, I don't need to come
Sure.
see. I see you every day on the freaking
Right.
face page, as Jason would say. But anyway, all right. So guys, we're gonna have another guest on something different, something we've never had on before. Writer and director and editor William Instone is with us. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, good man. Thanks for having me.
For
Yeah,
sure,
welcome.
for sure. I say something different. We have had some stuff like that before, but never in the horror genre, which
The
is
horror
very.
genre.
Is that what you? Is that the right way of saying it?
I said horror genre.
Oh,
Everybody always say, especially in Texas, when they say horror, it's like the horror genre. Like,
the horror.
yeah, yeah, it kind of fits.
Right on. Okay, but so just a real quick backstory. When we were at Bell County Comic Con a couple months ago, we just came upon you at your booth there, and then Johnny Hong just happened to be there at the same time, and we met up with you and talked to you, and you were very gracious to say, "Heck yeah, I'll come on your podcast." So here we are, and it's like
Yeah.
this is different for us to go into the horror genre
Horror.
of things. So just I mean, first comes first. Where are you from? Your background and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, this. I originally from Houston, grew up in Marble Falls. Moved out of the Stinkadena right outside of Houston. So where I grew up for until I was about 9 or 10. Then we went to Marble Falls, and I stayed there till I was 22. So I basically am from Marble Falls, and
Okay,
living in that small town really helped me develop my creativity because there wasn't a whole lot to do. So
sure.
I think some of the most creative people are from small towns because
Yep.
again, you have not a lot going on. And there was some times we were outside for about a year and a half. We moved outside the city limits of Marble Falls into this small area. It's Spicewood,
Hmm.
um, which is a lot more populated now than when I lived there in the 90s. It was like way the hell out there. It was like a 45-minute drive on our school bus each morning to go to
Oh wow.
school. So when we were out there, when you're a kid, you're 15 years old and you can't drive, you can't go anywhere. You're just kind of stuck out there with nothing. So
Right.
some of my best, when I first started writing when I was out there, stories and stuff. So I
Huh.
contribute a lot of it, and I learned how to play guitar because I didn't know how to do anything else back then. We didn't have the internet,
Yeah,
so You picked the
Right.
guitar up and you played it. That's what we did. So yeah,
Right on.
I
So
came to
did you,
Austin when I was 24. I moved out
okay.
of Marble
Okay.
Falls when I was 24, and I've been right outside of Austin ever since.
Okay, right on. So what led you to, doing the directing and editing and writing and all those things?
Failed musician.
Failed musician. All right, that's fair.
Uh,
That's fair.
Yeah,
Pivot.
again, I would write stories, but songs are pretty much stories.
Sure.
And I always wanted to be, my idols were James Hetfield from Metallica, and I wanted to play guitar and be a singer in a metal band, and I did. I've done it, It's just, but being in a band is like being married, and so it's not
Yeah.
really the thing for me. We have a lot of clashing egos and personalities in bands, and it's hard to keep people together.
Yeah. Married to
Um,
four other people. Yeah.
yeah, which is kind of why, speaking of Metallica, they get a lot of crap for doing their movie, um, some kind of monster movie, but it really showed them going to therapy, trying to keep their stuff together because they were like,
Yeah.
they were 50-year-old men that were basically married. They were trying to keep their marriage together,
Right.
because it's just it's not an easy thing. So when I came to Austin, that was, I had stars in my eyes to be in a band, and I got in a few bands, and if I go back in time a little bit further, when I was right about 19 years old, I had about 2 scripts I had written,
Oh,
and
nice.
I did a crash course correspondence class on filmmaking and how to get your films made and how to finance them. And I'm in this small town in Marble Falls in the middle of Texas, and this guy's telling us how you have to make it, your low budget film is going to be under $5 million, and you have to go to this bank and get this grant, and you have to shoot it on film, a thing called backstock. And it was actually, after I went through all this, it was very discouraging because
Mm.
I felt like there's no fucking way. I don't know if can I cuss?
Yeah, go ahead, man. You're good.
Sorry, it comes out every now and then. I'll try
You're
not
out.
to.
You're good. You're
Uh,
good.
I said, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this, So I kind of put filmmaking on the back burner, and I just put all my time into making music because I knew that was feasible. At least in my mind, it was, even though it's probably was no more feasible than the other. And then this guy named Robert Rodriguez came out and made a movie called El Mariachi for seven thousand
Yeah.
dollars that
Yeah.
he ended up getting, huge. And when I found out his story, I'm like, well, damn, because here's a
Yeah.
here's a funny thing. One of my friends that I went to high school with did the same stuff that Robert did. He used to sell himself to science. He'd go to this place called Pharmaco in Austin, and you
Wow.
basically were a human lab rat. You
Oh
like Robert was.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how Robert made the money to make El Mariachi. He sold himself to science. He went in there for 30 days. He wrote the script and basically let them do
Wow.
experiments on taking experimental drugs. And so a friend of
Wow.
mine used to do that. And it's funny. I was like, well, hell, I can go to Pharmaco and do that too. But
I
I never
remember that.
did. But yeah, so when I found out about Robert and what he was doing, and like, so he's probably one of my biggest influences because he isn't from Austin, right where I'm from. He
Right.
did everything. He edited, he shot it, he did everything, like, wore all the hats, and he got his damn movie made. He went out to California and was just a huge success story. Now that's not how things work nowadays.
Right.
He has a book called Rebel Without a Crew, and I read that book about 5 times, and it's documented from his journals, and he basically
Oh, okay.
logs all the things he did to make that movie. It's
Mm.
so inspiring, and so yeah, that's kind of where when I came to Austin and I was failing in bands, I couldn't keep them together. Kind of went full circle. I was like, well, I've got this idea for a movie, so if Robert can make it for 7,000, I can do it. So I watched. We had YouTube now, so I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I had a script. I got a hold of a camera guy that worked for a news company for many years, and for $4,000, we made my very first movie. It was a feature length, hour and 45-minute feature length film that was shot
Nice.
for
Wow.
$4,000 with no crew. Now I
Wow.
could never release it because I made a lot of mistakes, but that was my film school. I didn't go to actual film school. I made a movie, and
Oh,
I learned
nice.
all the mistakes that
Right.
and I learned from those
Firsthand.
mistakes. yeah, and the film turned out pretty good. I can't watch it now because it looks like crap to me now. But one day I'll possibly remake it. But it was good considering,
What
where
was it
I was.
called?
It was called John, Jon,
John. Okay.
John, and it was basically like hookers and Johns, you know.
Okay. All right. All
But
right.
it was about basically a serial killer that had a sociopathic imaginary friend that made him do all these stuff. It was basically he's schizophrenic, but he thinks there's this
Wow.
imaginary friend. And
I'd watch
the
that.
whole kind of twist is this really in his head, or is this guy that he's seeing a demon or something like that? um, and so yeah, I mean, I made that film, and it didn't do quite what I thought it was going to do, but I never gave up. I made a bunch of short films, and then after that, it just eventually I started. Excuse, my phone's blowing up on me. When you're a producer, I need to turn this
I,
off.
I
You,
get
you
it,
can't
man.
really, you don't really turn your phone off because you always have people contacting you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you guys-
You just silence it
and
for a bit.
yeah, because you're. I mean, again, I'm in the process now of producing and pre-production of or actually funding my next project and selling the one prior to that. So,
Right
so
on.
yeah, it's
We'll get
just
to
been I
that.
never gave up. Yeah, I never gave
Yeah.
up, dude. And so I just made a bunch of short films. I did 48-hour film challenges, which I think are a joke now. But at the time when I was doing them, I considered them to be a challenge. To you had 48 hours to make a 8-minute film that made
Oh
sense
yeah.
at the beginning, middle, and end, and didn't look like crap. And I did that about 3 or 4 times. And then I made my first like real long short. It was about 30 minutes long, and it won about 50 film festivals. It
Wow.
was a zombie film, which I wrote,
Bro.
and I was the main character in it as well. I did a lot of the zombie. I did a lot of the zombie makeup and everything. And the reason I do that, I was the main character because I was easy to find. Actors are when you're not paying people and you have to work on their schedules, it can really screw you up. But if you can act yourself, and I actually
Right.
won an acting award for that
Nice.
at Houston,
What year was
Houston
that? What? How?
Film
What?
Festival. Hmm?
What year?
Um,
What year was that?
I believe it was 2020
Oh,
was
okay.
the when I won that award. It was 2020. We made it 2016, 2017 is when I made that short
Okay.
film.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I wrote the script when my brother died. I had three brothers. They all died a year apart from each other.
Oh my
And
goodness.
when my final brother died, I was just like, it was just like, cause one after the next, after the next. I didn't really, it didn't hit me so hard. It was just kind of like I was in disbelief, and I just was like gloomy and felt like, I don't know. I wanted to write something that was just dark and gloomy. And so I made this dystopian apocalyptic world and set zombies and
Wow.
stuff in there. And we called Among the Dead. And I actually wrote a feature film script link for it. It was probably 100 pages, but I did a proof of concept short film, which was 30 minutes long to try to get the budget for it. But by the time, a little too, it was not the right timing. Walking Dead had basically oversaturated the market with zombies at
Yeah.
that point,
Right.
and it will still probably be another 5 to 7 years before any real good zombie movie will be made again because the Walking Dead is
Yeah.
Yeah.
really, which I liked the show, but it was just too much. It was everywhere.
Yeah. 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 It
So
was.
Huge
It was like
craze.
I loved it. We watched it a whole lot, and it just got to the point of like, okay, I've had enough. You know.
yeah, to me it started getting a little woke, and I mean I don't
Yeah.
I don't like to get political or anything, but when you look at things and you can see that was obviously like, okay, this is a bit woke right now. I see what they're doing here.
Right.
You lose me.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you
For
make
sure. And,
if you make that if make that shit obvious, you're gonna lose me.
right. Right.
You can put
Uh.
your message in, you can put your stuff in there, but if you got to do it correctly,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't be
Yeah.
don't be obvious.
So, what like just I know this is out of nowhere, but what are some of your favorite horror films? Something, or okay, let me say this: what's your favorite mainstream horror film first, before you get into before we have no idea what you're talking about?
Believe it or not, man, I like the mainstream ones. They were more
Okay,
than the a lot of filmmakers, like you said, they'll go, "Oh, I like this avant-garde art house horror film that you've never heard of because I'm an elitist and I'm cooler than you. I'm not that
Okay,
guy."
cool. Well,
Uh,
all right. So
yeah.
tell us all the mainstream shit you like.
Okay. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. It's kind of a boring answer, but I saw it in the theater when I was about
Yeah.
9 years old, 8 or 9,
Yeah, me
probably
too.
8. I might have been a little younger than that. My babysitter took me, and it scared me so bad. But I thought it was so cool, and that's when I
Nice.
knew there was something wrong with me. So yeah, yeah. So Nightmare on Elm Street has a big special place in my heart, but I gotta say I'm a big Jason Voorhees fan from Friday the
Nice.
13th. So Jason Voorhees is probably my biggest influence as far as like killers and stuff go. And so yeah, I have a cat in heat. So
The cat's wanting your
um,
attention, bro.
yeah, so she's just like, all right, let me out. But so anyway, yeah. So picking a favorite horror movie is so hard to do because I watch so many of them
Sure, yeah.
over and over again, and that's just what I can just say the ones that hold that place is like again the to me I like, believe it or not, Jason Lives, which is Friday the 13th Part 6, because it's
Okay.
actually when Jason becomes a zombie, and it's kind of funny. It's got a little bit of humor in it, which is also Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has a lot of humor in it. It's a
Yeah,
dark comedy,
yeah. Yeah.
which my film Butcher's Bluff is based off of Friday the 13th 6 and Nightmare and Chainsaw 2, because it's a horror slasher, but it's got a little comedy in it. Because I
Nice.
think that's one of the best ways independent films can be successful and get people to like and to enjoy your films, to not take it so damn serious. You can't compete with $1 million Hollywood movies. You can't.
Right,
You
yeah.
don't have the resources. You're not, no matter what you do, your film's not going to look as good. You're not going to have the Hollywood sound. You're not going to be polished, but you can compete story wise, especially if you go and you put a little comedy in there, and just let it be a fun ride. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about when Scream came out and kinda changed everything a bit as far as mainstream went?
Scream was fantastic. I loved it. Wes
Okay, I
Craven
loved
was
it.
great. Yeah, I will be honest. I've never seen a sequel, not one. There's like
I've
what? How
maybe
many?
seen 2.
I think there's like 7 sequels now or something like that. I've never
Yeah,
seen any
yeah,
of them.
yeah. Yeah.
It didn't need one. That was the thing, is I didn't. I didn't think they needed one, so I didn't watch it. The same thing with Saw. I loved the first Saw. I watched the second Saw. I thought the second Saw was pretty damn good. Never saw any of the other ones.
Yeah, that's about what I've done too. Saw the first one's great, man.
Yeah, the
It's
first
so
one's brilliant.
Yeah, it's so brilliant, and then after that, it's like you watch like you said, you watch the second one, you're like, It's alright," and then it's like, "Okay, I'll go on to the next one," but
It took me a minute to realize it's fucking Donnie Wahlberg. Like
Yeah,
what?
right?
What?
Right?
Like that dude looks familiar.
Yeah, I didn't know that until way after the fact, like, I read about it or something, I was like,
And I
"What?"
watched the credits because I couldn't place, again, back then we didn't have Google. We couldn't just say, who is this guy? Like, man, that
Yeah.
dude looks so familiar. Who is that guy?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you get the end credits, like, holy shit, that's Donnie Wahlberg.
Right
You
on,
know?
okay. The, is there I don't know, I'm trying to think of, do you just stick with that kind of, horror movie as far as the slasher stuff and whatnot, or do you do a little bit of everything, or
I'm not pigeonholed into horror. Like, my next film is actually going to be more of a thriller. It's more Silence of the Lambs
Oh, nice.
and Seven, but it has a little touch of Halloween in it. So, but slashers to me are my favorite horror because again, they're more fun. There is a sense of disbelief that you have to believe, to watch them, and there is a little bit of sense of humor in all of them. And so they are my favorite of the horror genre. But again, I've written westerns, man. I've won
Oh,
awards with my scripts with our westerns, and
nice.
I've written sci-fi,
Oh,
kind of like
man.
Jacob's Ladder. Did you ever see Jacob's Ladder? Remember that
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Robbins?
Yeah, a
Oh
long time
yeah,
ago.
dude. Yeah. I have a script that's very influenced by Jacob's Ladder and the Twilight Zone type of stuff. So I got an action script that I've written. You know, we're working on a script now for a Mad Max dystopian, futuristic type of sci-fi action thing as well. So
Nice.
I have lots of stories, and I like to like get them all out. But horror to me is where I like to make, because quite frankly, you can make them for a modest budget and you can sell them and not go broke. You
Yeah,
know,
right, right. Where does like all your inspiration like come for the stories? Like, how do you are you just coming up with them in your mind, or is there certain inspirations that you get to do it, or how does that go about?
they pretty much just pop in my head once I think about what do I want to write about. You
Okay.
know, it just depends. Sometimes I can get like my film Caught in My Eye that I'm funding right now came from a girl telling me about being stalked.
Ah,
She was telling me
okay.
about this crazy stalker, and it wasn't. It was he was kind of more of an innocent stalker, but I made it say, okay, what if we took that to the next level? You know, like she would
Right,
talk
right.
about how she'd post something on there, and then that guy would just be there, and
Mm.
she'd go outside and
Ah,
she'd find flowers on her car or a heart drawn on her window, and the little letters left on her door. I'm like, oh my
ah.
god, you know,
Sound
and this is yeah,
sounds familiar, Josh. Um,
yeah.
that's a side joke for us. So, do when you make a film and you put it out somewhere or whatever, do you go in and sit and see like people's reactions and whatnot?
Of course, I go to all the screenings that I go to. Every screening that we've done, because I haven't had a widescreen, wide release theatrical or any of the films yet. And
Right.
Film Butcher's Bluff, the distribution company, passed on doing a wide theatrical, but gave me non-exclusive rights to do screenings. So I screened them myself. Like I just recently did one at a drive-in theater here,
Oh, nice.
and
Cool.
it was the biggest screen I ever projected on. It was amazing, and yeah, and then film festivals that I'm at, I always get the good reactions. I like to know. I know within the first few minutes if I got them. If they laugh where they're supposed to, and they were in the first when the first kill comes up, if they react, I know I have them. And then again, I like to watch and pay attention and make sure the jokes are hitting where they're supposed to. The cringes are where they're supposed to. If a horror audience is talking to the screen, you got a winner.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, yeah, that's true. What,
Mhm.
what's the hardest thing about making a film? I mean, is it getting the money
Getting
or
money
is
to
it
make it.
there? Okay, that's what I figured you would say.
Yeah.
But I mean,
You
so how
getting the
does
money
that
to
go?
make it.
I mean, how does that work though? Really, like for someone like us that has no idea, like how does that all work as far as getting that money?
It's a challenge. I use crowdfunding. That's what I did on Butcher's Bluff. I did an site called Indiegogo, which I have one right now. I'll plug it later. But Indiegogo is an online place where people can donate money.
Okay,
And I spent 3 or 4 years wearing the Hogman suit. He's the killer in Butcher's Bluff. I would go to conventions, Comic Cons, horror cons. I'd wear that suit and I'd hand out flyers and built up a fan base. I had made a fake trailer to the
nice,
trailer wasn't real. We spent like $500 and made it look like it was a real movie. I got people like,
nice.
where can I see this movie? And finally, I got so many people interested in it over 3 or 4 years. When I launched the crowdfunding, I made $15,000 in about 20 minutes
Oh wow.
Nice.
on there, and I made about 40,000 on the first one, and then we did another one to finish the film, and I made another 20 there. Then
Nice.
so people just donate, and then you get outside people. People are like, hey, I want to invest in this, and you can get some outside investors that way. As it just everybody has their own way of doing it.
Right.
So
Yeah, I just wondered how that funding goes. Is like have somebody that's like just a huge fan of William Instone, so they're like, man, I'm giving that dude a shit ton of money to
I
do
wish.
something. Yeah, well, I'm sure that happens,
Yeah.
but just
Well, I mean, I did get someone that came in and gave me 15 grand in the end of Butcher's Bluff because he believed in the project.
yeah, stuff
So
like that. Yeah,
yeah, so I do hope that this next one will generate the same. I have had some interest, people that are interested in getting on board, especially since some of the people I have attached to it now are actually getting me a lot more eyes
you're right.
on me. So that's always
Yeah,
good. And I'm gonna be the Butcher's Bluff will be on the streaming sites. Probably in the next couple of months, and so once that's out and people start really knowing who the hell I am and start seeing my work, um, it's going to help a lot. Once you have something to show and you're proven, it's a little bit easier for people to
sure.
to let go of a little bit of money to somebody who hasn't proven themselves yet.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of Butcher's Bluff, did how was it working with like Jeremy London and Billy Oberst? I mean, those are kind of big
Oh
names,
man,
and
yeah, Jeremy's great, man. Jeremy's hilarious in the movie too. Um, so yeah, he's a down to earth dude, man. You know, he gave up Hollywood a long time ago,
yeah,
so
yeah,
he doesn't have that. He and his brother both, they just kind of like, you know. So they
right.
don't they're not Hollywood types. You know, they're real down to earth, chill guys. So yeah, he was a lot of fun to work with. Very easy to direct. I mean, he basically was like, hey, you know, and he's directed films. He's an acting coach and all that stuff. And but he says, you know, well, you know, you just tell me what you want me to do, and I'm going to do it. You know,
That's fair
and
enough.
he's yeah, he's like, you know, he's like, I'm here. You hired me. Don't ever apologize, you know, or anything. Because we were having some difficulties with some things, and you know, 'cause I'm just one of those guys. I was like, hey man, I'm sorry, we're going through this. It's taking a little longer. He's like, this is my job, you know. He
Right.
never really gave us any problems or anything like that. He was very cool. Of
Nice.
course, he
Awesome.
told us some stories about being on some other sets where they didn't feed him with the shit. And I think he was pretty happy because I do put my people up in really nice hotels and
Oh,
I feed
nice.
them well. So when you feed someone well and you put them up in a nice hotel and everything and you're taking care of them, they tend to be a little more forgiving.
Yeah.
Right
And
on.
Bill Oberst, man, Oberst is, man, he's an intense actor. Such a nice guy. Um, you know, he's going to be in my next one. Actually, him and Jeremy both are going to be in my next film as
Oh,
well,
awesome.
because both of them really enjoyed working with me, and I enjoyed working with them. So I like to work with the same people. And
Right on.
so Oberst plays just a really intense, creepy character in Butcher's Bluff, and he's a method actor. So it was kind of funny. Like we went to dinner the night before that we started shooting, and he's basically just saying, "Hey, just I want to tell you, William, you need to let your crew know that I'm not being rude, but
Right.
I'm not going to be talking to a lot of people much. I'm only the bare necessities. I kind of want to be isolated and stay in character and be as because I'm supposed to be this person. And if I start talking, laughing, and
Right.
relaxing, I
Right.
tend to feel like I lose it. So I like to stay in there. So he did. He went. He stood off by himself and ate his lunch by himself. And people were like, "Man, he's kind of like kind of rude a little bit." I'm like, "Because Jed's rude. Jed don't like you."
Right. Right.
Bill
This
right
guy's
now,
like this guy's a dick. Well, he's supposed to be.
yeah, it's like he's like he said he's gonna that you know you can talk to him and everything, but he's gonna try to be very short with you because he's trying to keep that mind frame.
Yeah, I can
So,
understand that. I can
so yeah,
definitely
really,
understand that.
really cool. I'll tell you a fun story about Jeremy. It's like we were out. He was a trooper. We were filming till like almost 5 o'clock in the morning. It was from sundown to sun up, and he was having a hard time staying awake. But as soon as we called action, he was on, and you couldn't tell. And then in between takes, he's like, "Oh my god, I'm so tired." And right as we were doing a scene, I won't say what the scene is, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and all of a sudden, rain just poured down on us.
Oh,
We all took off running, and it rained out, and we had one take to get this shot, and luckily we got it. But we were doing the second take, and it just poured. But we have our lights out there in the middle of the woods. There's no shelter. There's nothing. We're way out there, so it's like a long haul in the rain, trying to get all this stuff and save our gear from getting destroyed. And then the cameras are very water sensitive, so we thought we might have lost all the footage because the rain hit the cameras.
Oh.
oh
I mean,
shoot.
one drop of water can just totally corrupt your files. So
Right.
we got really, really lucky that we didn't. So uh, that was that's one of the nightmare stories of being on set. You know, when something Mother Nature, you can't predict what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Have you ever had any like issues with an actor? Like, not you don't have to say names, but like or have an actor that's come in that's maybe hasn't done that horror genre before, and they get there and they're like, okay, maybe this is not for me after all.
No, no, I've
All
only
right.
had good, I've only had good experiences with actors because I'm very selective on who I cast.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
So I talk to everybody before I cast them. I tell them what they're going to expect. Like,
Okay.
look, man, I'm still low budget. I do things, we do things kind of guerrilla. And um, I just hired a pretty notable professional for my next film. We can get to when we get to that, I'll tell you who it is. But we were talking about that in a meeting last night about how we might have to go downtown Austin and shoot some stuff without permits. Are you cool with that?
Whoa.
And I was like, and then Tony's like, well, I was like, this isn't LA, man. Austin don't care. That's the whole thing. That's the thing about, they don't.
You're
They
right.
don't care. I was like, basically, what we're gonna say is, you say we're shooting something. It's just gonna put a little short film we're making for YouTube, and Austin does not care what you do. As long as you're
Yeah.
not blocking traffic, they don't
Right.
care.
They don't care. But Ed, have you done any other stuff besides movies, like I don't know, music videos or something
I've
along
edited.
that line?
I just edited a music video for a band called Mephisto Odyssey, who had the singer for Static X. His name was Wayne Static. He died in
Yeah.
2014. He died in 2014. He sang on it, and this was the 25th anniversary. Warner Brothers is about to re-release it.
Oh.
The song was on the Batman Begins
Okay.
soundtrack of the Return of the Joker animated movie,
Okay.
and it's called Crash. And they with this remake, they wanted to take the Batman references out, so I actually got all the footage that was directed by Lynn Wiseman, who was the director for Underworld.
Oh, I love
Uh,
those
yeah,
movies.
so I got all the footage. So and the footage looked fantastic. So I just re-edited their music video for them, and Warner Brothers loved it.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was
Okay.
really cool. That I'm going to be credited on that for the editor for that Warner Brothers is going to be releasing in 2025. That will be the 25th anniversary. So
Oh,
that's
sweet.
something that's really, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
really cool. Is that something else you want to do down the line? More like music video stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm working on it. I wrote an album of music by myself. So I got some musicians that I'm trying to re-record them. I got the demos, and I want to make some videos with them. Yeah, I don't
Nice.
want to be in a band anymore. I just want to do like write songs and make music videos and put them out.
Okay,
So
I have to ask you this just because I'm such a big fan of this band. Since you were around in Austin in the '90s as a band, do you remember the band Push Monkey?
of course,
Oh man, that's
Song
one
of
of my
Life.
favorite bands of all time is Push Monkey.
Yeah,
So I had to ask you.
dude, we pulled the trumpet out and start playing the trumpet.
Yeah, yeah, dude,
Yeah,
we actually had the singer Tony Park on our show,
mhm, yeah,
and unfortunately, his internet was just awful, and we tried so hard to get it all right for him to be on, and it didn't work out. But anyway, I had to bring that up because you said you were doing music in the '90s in Austin, and I'm like, Push
yeah.
Monkey,
Yeah, right there.
they're
Oh yeah,
one of my
oh yeah.
favorites.
You were in Austin at the time. You knew who they were.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They were winning all those awards,
Hmm.
They were freaking awesome and doing something a little different too because of the trumpet and whatnot. But anyway, all
Yeah.
right. Moving on from that. So a lot of people have kind of moved over to like Bastrop to do all these movies and whatnot. Are you doing that too?
Well, I live 15 minutes from Bastrop.
Oh, well, okay.
I'm right outside. I'm right outside of Austin. I moved out of the city limits 7 years ago. I moved outside
Okay.
of Austin, and I live as a small town. I won't say where I'm at just because I do have people that probably hate me. So I don't want you to know where I live. But I'm not far from Bastrop, and I'm there all the time. I go to the Texas gas station there that was used for the Chainsaw Massacre movie. Though
Yeah.
we're not supposed to talk about that anymore.
Eh,
Um, so, but it lost legal reasons. That's
yeah,
why we
yeah.
can't talk about it. So, but we just call it the Texas gas station. I go there. They have great barbecue. So, have you ever been there?
No, well, I've driven by it, but I've never
Oh my
stopped it.
god, that barbecue that's where you want to go, man. That's some good stuff.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I'll have to do that.
and so yeah. So I've shot most of Butcher's Bluff was shot out there. There's a lot of
Okay.
stuff. The downtown area, Bastrop, we filmed stuff out in there. All of the proof of concept for Caught My Eye was shot in Bastrop. So
Okay.
it's just it's just one of those towns. Like again, no one cares. Elon's got his SpaceX right outside
Right.
there. Everything's moving out in that direction. They have a big movie studio that's being built out there. Zach Levi, I think Levy or whatever his name is, Shazam.
Yeah, Zachary
He's
Levi, yeah.
yeah. He was a big voice for it,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
pushing for them to build the studio out there.
Nice.
Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, it's Batstrop's cool because they did the Friday the 13th remake. It was shot
Oh,
in Bastrop.
I gotcha.
Well, yeah, and some of the stuff from the Texas Chainsaw remakes were shot out in this area.
Yeah,
So
right on. I can remember
it's
as a
cool.
kid driving by the house off of 35 that they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film out, and I don't think it's there anymore. I guess they
No,
moved it.
they moved it to Kingsland.
Yeah,
I was
that's right.
originally from Marble Falls, and when they brought that there, Kingsland was about 10, 15 minutes outside of Marble Falls, and they brought it on trucks. I actually was there when they watched them unload the house in two sections on these
Yeah,
big trailers. And now it's a restaurant. It's nice. And they've embraced it. The first place that had it didn't really have a whole lot of embracing the chainsaw history, but now they changed the name to Hoopers in honor of Toby Hooper, who was the
oh,
director.
okay.
And that's
All
called
right.
Hoopers, and they embraced their chainsaw past.
Oh,
So,
nice. Yeah, yeah, I've heard a little bit about that, but I can always remember passing that thing.
mhm.
I was gonna ask you too, like, I know you did Bell County Comic Con, but they had Mallapalooza that was supposed to happen in Temple, and then the BS happened with the inspection and all that stuff, and now I noticed that it's gonna be in mid-December. Is that right?
December, yes, it's December 14th to 15th.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. And I mean, what is that basically kind of like Comic Con, but on a smaller scale?
Yeah, well, it's the mall format. A mall format basically is it's free to the public. People can just come in, but you have vendors and you have your guests there, and it's just kind of one of those things to get people interested in coming to the mall again because
Right.
it was more or
Yeah.
less we were doing it to try to save that mall.
Yeah, yeah. Our
Yeah.
buddy Rob Brandenburg owns three
Oh yeah, yeah. He's
stores in
he's
there.
been a he's been an ambassador for Malapalooza. He's been helping out. I don't know if y'all know that I'm one of the owners of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's a good dude.
Uh, the so we formed the Malapalooza thing, and with Johnny and myself and then
Yeah.
Roy from Cult Classic, who owns
Oh,
the
okay.
Texas gas. He owns the Texas gas station, chainsaw gas station. So again, I'm not supposed to say chainsaw, but I can say it. He can't say it, but I can say it.
Mechanized saw.
So anyway, yeah. Anyway, we were so set on doing that, and then the damn place failed its failed its inspection.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
how do you not have your fire? I was there at the mall mapping out where we were putting the wrestling ring, and we were gonna have pro wrestling and all that stuff there, and yeah, we were mapping it out when they walked in, and actually Rob delivered the news to us. He was just like, "Hey,
Yeah.
the fire inspector's about to shut us down." I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
Mm.
Jesus, man. Well, thank
Uh,
goodness they got it back up.
yes, and the new manager seems to be really, really into it. So
Cool.
so that's good. So hopefully we'll get this thing. Everything will be good in December. It'll be awesome, and then when we have a couple of other malls that we're wanting to hit up to try to just it's not that format. It's limited at how much money you can make. So this isn't about money. It's more or less of just having a good time, giving something to people out there that can to try to help malls, and
Sure.
it's just free events for fans.
Yeah,
That's the
right
main
on.
thing.
Right on. So,
Free is
what do you
nice.
yeah, what do you do that's not like on your spare time? Is there or do you have a spare time? Because you had mentioned having horses or something, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
what
my
does that
daughter has
mean?
horses. My daughter has horses. We live in the country, and I really don't have much free time. I go to the gym. you know.
Okay, fair
Uh,
enough.
yeah. So I work out and I play the guitar when I have a little extra time. But most of the time, from the time I'm up to the time I'm down, I'm pretty much on the phone dealing with business, trying to get this either Malapalooza or I'm dealing with a film.
Right on.
Either producing it, working on writing one. One of the things, that's one of the reasons why I don't have a lady friend because I don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Back
Phil
about a year ago, I tried that, and it was just kind of like I don't really have time for this.
Yeah, right.
This is
Filmmaking is your lady friend. That's what Leonard
yes,
would say from what is it called?
Big Bang.
Oh gosh, dang it. Uh,
Big Bang Theory.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's what he would
Yeah,
say. Well,
Gal
so
yeah.
pal.
you kind of touched on gal pal. You kind of touched on some things that you're working on. So tell us about what you're working on and where we can see everything, William Instone, if you will.
Yeah, man. So we have the first thing is Butcher's Bluff. That's where the film I started in 2019. We started. So that's when we started doing the fundraising, and then when 2020 COVID hit,
Yeah,
and
Mm.
right when we were about to start, like, oh my god! So ended up filming with a bunch of people terrified that we were going to die if we ever got together in groups. But I did it anyway. It's like, hey man,
Yeah.
let's not none of us are old. we just
Right.
we'll be fine. Let's just
Right.
get through it. And so we did it. We muscled through it, but we had a very small crew. We filmed on the weekends. It took us about 2.5 years plus another year and a half or so of editing and all that stuff. So it finally got screened. We screened it there in Temple. I don't know. Did you come to the screening?
No, I didn't get to come. I wanted to. Johnny asked me to
Yeah,
come, and Josh, and it
yeah,
just didn't work out.
yeah. We screened it there. We screened it in New Braunfels. I screened it in Austin a few times. Screened it in Houston. We've done some film festivals. It's been out for about we shopped it around for about a year, and now I finally have a distribution deal with Breaking Glass Pictures,
Okay.
and they're going to be releasing it on all the streaming platforms and some physical media. I'll have the physical media myself, TV, Blu-rays that we sell at conventions, my website and stuff, and we'll be doing four-wall movie rentals, theatricals. So that's the one to be looking out for first because it should be streaming fairly soon. Again, I'm doing the deliverables. This is one thing about film is that when you sell it, they want all your paperwork, all the contracts that you got with your actors. You have to have your video, you have to have your music and everything separated. You have to send them these things called stems. So the talking is on one track, your special effects is on another track, and your music's on another track. So they could take the talking out and dub it if they want to put it in Spanish or something. So they have to take all the talking off so they can just insert, re-record Spanish on there. Then you have to do
Sound
your
sounds
closed
fun to
captioning.
do.
Then you have to do your closed captioning, and you have to do you have to give them all your behind the scenes pictures, and there's just a lot of work to do. So we've been working on audio. I've been with my sound guy on here on the internet for back and forth for the last 2-3 days trying to get things ready for. We have to get everything to them by Friday. So once they get it, they have to send it through a thing called quality control, and if as long as it passes quality control, meaning that everything sounds good, it's not going in the red and distorted or everything, and then they should be putting it out relatively quick. But they did tell me they do want to do a little bit of marketing for it, so to try to get people to know what's happening
Sure.
because they feel like they can get quite a bit of people to back it and watch it and stuff. So PR is important. So and
Sure.
I'd rather
Yeah.
I've waited this long, so I told them I was like, I would rather wait another couple of months for you to release it and put some marketing behind it and get
Yeah.
people excited to watch it than to just spit it out there and throw it up against the wall and see who sticks.
Yeah. Just hope.
Yeah. So that's the film that's coming out, and that was a 5 years, almost 6 years in the making to do that
Wow.
film. Which I did wore so many hats. I wrote it, directed it. I was a main killer in it. And I wore the suit with all the kills
Nice.
and stuff. Some of the special effects. I did some wardrobe. I mean, obviously other people were doing it too, but I had my foot in there as well. And then again, the editing. The editing is just, that's the final stage when you tell your story. A story is told 3 times. The story is told when you write it. The story is retold when you're making it with the actors and stuff there, and the story is finally told when you edit it.
Well, makes
Mm.
sense.
So,
Yeah.
so, and I'm involved in all 3 of those. So, and then it's hard when you edit your own film too, because it's like aborting your own children. Sometimes you have to you really, you do something, you write it, and it's great on paper, and you love it, and then you get out there and you film it, and you love how it looks, and you have the memories of what you were doing when you made it, and it's like this is such a cool scene. But then you see, I'm running 2 hours and 30-minute movie. I have to get this cut down. So you have to
Yeah.
ask. You have to ask the question the editor will ask: does this movie make sense if this scene is not in it? And if the
Right.
answer is yes, that scene goes.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind
I've
of
only
grip
had to.
blower.
I've had to scrap 2. We've had to scrap 2 podcasts, and both times I almost cried. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So the
To a
one
certain.
thing that's cool is that the distributing company is going to let me do a director's cut.
Oh,
So
nice.
so probably about a year from now, after it's been out for a while, I'll do a director's cut and release it on physical media, and I can add in a lot more of the scenes that I had to cut out.
Nice.
So the story will make a little bit more sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense now, but there's just more. I'm kind of spoon feeding a little bit more to him in the director's cut,
Right.
because there
More
was a
meat
scene
on the bones.
I absolutely loved, this one scene that we had to cut out. It was just like, oh man, I really want that back in. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to plug before we get going?
Yeah, man. We got my next film is called Caught My Eye, and it's like I was telling you earlier. It's really like Silence of the Lambs and Seven meets Halloween. It's a thriller with a little horror twist, and it's really heavily influenced by the BTK serial killer, Dennis Rader, and then it's the character has called Goldilocks, and
Ah,
he stalks blonde women and he ritualistically kills them and collects their hair and sews it into his wigs. And
nice.
yeah, he's kind of like he's like Norman Bates,
Uh,
psychopath. Norman Bates, Buffalo Bill from Silence
Buffalo
of the Lamb.
Bill. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, you kind of imagine Buffalo Bill if he abused steroids. That's
All
him.
right.
So and then but then it has a twist. The twist is that he's next killer. He's going to be a. So we spend the first like 20, 30 minutes of establishing who this guy is. Then he's following his next victim, and when he gets ready to kill her, he's at the house that she's house sitting, and the house ends up getting robbed by a group of guys in masks that want to rob the place because there's $5 million in the safe that she's house sitting, but they don't know that the serial killer is up in the bedroom closet. So
Oh.
so he goes out and blows their car up and makes it to where they can't leave. If they try to leave, he kills them. And
Oh
so
Mm.
one at a time, he's killing them all off. So
That's crazy.
because they got in his way, and the girl doesn't know that he's there to kill her. He thinks she's there to help her, so she's helping him.
Oh.
So that's
Wow.
like, what the hell. So we have a Indiegogo now for that. That's the we talked about funding. We're funding that right now, crowdfunding it now. So if
Okay.
anybody wants to look at us, it's like Caught My Eye movie on Facebook, and we have the Caught My Eye movie on Indiegogo. If you want to contribute to that, we just booked the cinematographer for the James Wan film Insidious. So that
Oh,
was
okay.
2010. He's the guy who worked the camera and did director of photography for Insidious. We just hooked him up, and then of course with the cast, we have Jeremy London and Bill Oberst already on track to that. So we're trying to get some bigger names there as well, depending on our budget that we raise.
Okay.
So, but I've got some outside. I do have some outside investors that are interested, and so hopefully that will work out. And Caught My Eye will be something that we can get out there into the theaters with. This guy, his name's Dave Brewer. He was again the cinematographer for Insidious. The stuff that he can do, if you've ever seen that movie, it's really cool. So it's going to definitely look top notch, and hopefully we'll be able to get into some of the theaters.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, all right. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I know this is like again, this is gonna. They said it's different to talk to somebody that you don't really
Yeah,
know.
no,
You don't
it
know
was
this world.
interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. I just want to reiterate to everybody listening. Go check out Butcher's Bluff when it comes out here pretty soon. Go to Malapalooza and Temple on the December 14th and 15th. William will be there, right? You'll be there.
Yes,
You can go
absolutely.
go talk to William, and we that's what we did. That's why we're on this show,
Yeah,
because we met up with
Yeah.
them at Comic-Con. So yeah, go check that out. And and there's wrestling, you said, so that that
yeah.
ought to be that ought to be cool.
We're gonna have Krampus there. Yeah, Krampus will be. You can sit on Krampus' lap for Santa Claus.
Oh, for Christmas time.
We're making it. It's holiday horror now.
Yeah.
Since we moved
Yeah.
to December, we're moving it and making it something fun.
Nice. All right. Well, again, guys, go check all that stuff out. And also always go to randomness.podcast.com to check everything out. And don't forget, buy me a coffee. We haven't had a whole lot of buy me a coffees going on. And we're working on some stuff that we need some help with. So we'd appreciate that. Speaking of funding,
Yeah.
that we need some for a commercial that we're making to go on TV. And if you guys would help us out, we'd appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thank you.
We are gone.